Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. India outlines 5-point call for global action to protect mountain ecosystems. First overseas campus of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade to be set up in Dubai. A major solar eruption bird wing event is set to possibly impact the Earth. World's first personalized gene editing therapy used to cure a rare disease. PRS report flags sharp decline in state assembly functioning. India recently outlined a 5-point call for global action to protect mountain ecosystems during the first Sagarmatha Sambaad organized in Kathmandu, Nepal, under the theme Climate Change, Mountains and the Future of Humanity. Sambaad or dialogue is named after the world's tallest mountain Sagarmatha, that is Mount Everest. India stressed on the need for collaborative efforts to safeguard the Himalayas and other mountain ecosystems at the Sambaad. The need to protect the Himalayas arises as they are crucial for the livelihood of about 1.3 billion people, provide forest cover, feed perennial rivers, conserve biodiversity, among others. The 5-point call for global action to address the shared ecological challenges begins with enhanced scientific cooperation, which involves research collaboration, monitoring cryospheric changes, hydrological cycles, and biodiversity. This is followed by building climate resilience by investing in early warning systems for disasters like glacial lake outburst floods and climate-resilient infrastructure in mountain areas. The next point focuses on empowering mountain communities by ensuring that the welfare, needs, and aspirations of local communities are at the heart of policy making, and that they benefit from green livelihoods and sustainable tourism. Another essential point is providing green finance, which means making available climate finance as per UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement for mountain nations to implement adaptation and mitigation strategies effectively. Lastly, recognizing mountain perspectives is vital to ensure that the unique vulnerabilities and contributions of mountain ecosystems are suitably featured in global climate negotiations and sustainable development agendas. Now, what are some of the initiatives taken to protect the Himalayan mountain ecosystem? These include the National Mission on Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem, launched under the National Action Plan on Climate Change or NAPCC. The Secure Himalaya Project, which is part of the Global Partnership on Wildlife Conservation and Crime Prevention for Sustainable Development Global Wildlife Program, and the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, an intergovernmental knowledge and learning center working on behalf of the people of the Hindu Kush Himalaya or HKH. In a significant development, India is set to establish the first overseas campus of the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade or IIFT in Dubai, aligning with the vision of the National Education Policy or NEP 2020, which emphasizes the internationalization of higher education and the creation of global learning hubs. IIFT, deemed to be university, established in 1963 as an autonomous body under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, plays a pivotal role in skill building for India's external trade sector. Now, the internationalization of higher education in India, as envisaged in NEP 2020, takes two major directions. One involves Indian higher education institutions setting up campuses abroad, as demonstrated by IIT Madras, which has opened a campus in Tanzania. The other involves foreign HEIs setting up campuses in India, as exemplified by Australia's Deccan University launching its first campus in Gift City, Gujarat. The significance of internationalizing HEIs for India lies in several key areas. It improves the quality of education and research by enhancing global collaborations, increasing patent applications and academic standards, via encouraging faculty exchange and attracting more funding. It also contributes to saving and earning foreign exchange, especially since as of 2022, nearly 1.3 million Indian students were studying in countries like the USA, Canada, and Australia. Furthermore, international exposure boosts employability with future skills by equipping students with cross-cultural competencies and global certifications for high-demand careers. Additionally, it enhances India's soft power by showcasing the country's rich heritage and strengthening cultural influence and diplomacy. However, there are notable challenges to this internationalization effort. Regulatory barriers such as complex approval processes and restrictions on foreign universities hinder partnerships. For instance, a recent report by a parliamentary panel highlighted that no top Ivy League institute has yet set up a campus in India. Cultural and language barriers, including insufficient diversity training and limited English proficiency in some institutions, also obstruct global integration. Moreover, the emergence of foreign HEIs with attractive salaries could result in a brain drain, drawing top faculty away from Indian institutions, thus impacting Indian HEIs. Moving ahead, NASA satellites recently detected a massive solar flare, with superheated plasma erupting from the sun and spreading out in dramatic wing-like shapes, referred to as a major solar eruption or a bird wing effect. This development brings renewed attention to the nature and consequences of solar flares. But what are solar flares? Solar flares are defined as giant explosions on the sun that send energy, light, and high-speed particles into space. They're often associated with solar magnetic storms known as coronal mass ejections or CMEs, which are large expulsions of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun's corona. In terms of classification, the biggest flares are known as X-class flares, while the smallest ones are A-class near background levels, followed sequentially by B, C, M, and X classes. Moreover, the frequency of solar flares increases during the solar maximum, which marks the peak of the 11-year solar cycle. During this solar cycle, the sun's magnetic poles flip, reversing polarity approximately every 11 years. Solar flare bursts emit radiation across the electromagnetic spectrum, including X-rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet light, visible light, and radio waves. The implications of such solar flare events are significant. Firstly, they can cause geomagnetic storms which may disturb Earth's magnetic field, leading to radio blackouts, power grid failures, and even stunning auroras. Secondly, they pose risk to satellite systems, as high-energy particles can damage satellite electronics, interfere with GPS systems, and degrade communication networks. Lastly, while these solar flares do not directly harm people on Earth due to the protective magnetic field and atmosphere, they can endanger astronauts and space missions through radiation exposure. In a groundbreaking scientific advancement, world's first personalized gene editing therapy has been used to cure a rare genetic disease. Scientists in the United States have for the first time successfully used personalized CRISPR-based gene editing therapy to cure a baby suffering from CPS1 deficiency, a rare genetic disorder. This condition impairs the liver's ability to break down byproducts from protein metabolism, causing toxic ammonia accumulation in the body, which can be fatal. But what is gene editing therapy? It involves modifying an organism's DNA by correcting genetic defects, altering gene expression, or introducing new genetic material. It offers hope for treating conditions like sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, and certain cancers which are otherwise hard to treat. Now, gene editing modifies DNA in two ways. Firstly, somatic gene editing involves editing the DNA of non-productive somatic cells, like skin, liver, or blood cells, affecting specific tissues or organs in a living individual. The changes are limited to the treated individual and are not passed on to the offspring. Secondly, germline gene editing involves editing the DNA of reproductive cells, sperm, eggs, or early-stage embryos, affecting all cells in the resulting individual. The changes are heritable, that is, passed to future generations, as it alters the genetic makeup of the entire organism, including somatic and reproductive cells. As for the mechanism, DNA editing is a technique that functions much like a biological version of a word processing program's find and replace feature. The CRISPR-Cas9 method is commonly used for this purpose. The process begins when a cell is transfected with an enzyme complex that includes a guide molecule, a DNA cutting enzyme, and a healthy DNA copy. A specially designed synthetic guide molecule locates a target DNA strand within the genome. Once a target DNA is found, an enzyme cuts off the defective segment of the strand. This defective DNA is then replaced with a healthy copy, effectively correcting the genetic issue. This precise mechanism offers promising potential for treating various genetic disorders. Regarding the tools used, CRISPR-Cas9 uses guide RNA and Cas9 nuclease to cut DNA at targeted sites. Zinc finger nucleases, TALENs, etc. are commonly employed. Moving on, the recent PRS legislative research report has flagged a sharp decline in the functioning of state assemblies across India. Let's dive into the details. One of the key findings is the significant drop in the average number of sitting days, which fell from 28 in 2017 to just 20 in 2024. Notably, 11 states met the constitutional requirement under Article 174 through extremely short sessions that lasted for only 1 or 2 days. Article 174 of the Constitution requires state legislatures to meet at least once every 6 months. In contrast, a Constitution Review Committee had earlier recommended that smaller legislatures with fewer than 70 members sit for a minimum of 50 days annually, and larger ones for 90 days. Moreover, the quality of legislative debate has also declined. While states passed an average of 17 bills in 2024, a concerning 51% of these were cleared within a single day of their introduction. Even more alarming is the fact that only 4% of the bills passed during the year were referred to a committee for detailed examination, suggesting limited scrutiny. Further undermining legislative functioning is the absence of key presiding officers. Under Article 178 of the Constitution, every state assembly must have a speaker and a deputy speaker. Yet, as of April 2025, 8 states and union territories had not appointed a deputy speaker. For example, Jharkhand has failed to elect a deputy speaker for over 20 years. In addition, the report highlights delays in obtaining assent for passed bills. In 2024, 18% of the bills took more than 3 months to receive assent, with Himachal Pradesh experiencing delays in 72% of its passed legislation. This is despite Article 200 requiring governors to act on bills, either by granting assent, returning them, or reserving them without undue delay. These trends carry serious implications. Rushed lawmaking can result in weak, ambiguous, or poorly implemented legislation. The democratic process suffers from a lack of transparency and limited discussion, eroding public trust in legislative institutions and democratic processes. Moreover, delays in lawmaking and weak legislation can lead to governance gaps. Delays or weak laws cause confusion, policy inconsistency, and poor service delivery. In today's Place in News, we turn our focus to Honduras with its capital, Tegucigalpa. Honduras has recently opened an embassy in Delhi, strengthening diplomatic ties with India. Now, let's turn to some key facts. Honduras is located in Central America and shares land borders with Guatemala and El Salvador to the west, and Nicaragua to the south and east. It is flanked by the Caribbean Sea to the north and the Pacific Ocean to the south. Geographically, the country is marked by major rivers like the Patuca and Ulua, and its highest point is Mount Las Minas. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Israel launched a strike on Hodeidah and Al Salif ports in Yemen, controlled by Houthis. Together with Ras Isa, the ports of Hodeidah and Salif handle about 70% of all Yemen's imports and 80% of all humanitarian assistance. Karnataka government requested electric buses under PM Electric Drive Revolution in Innovative Vehicle Enhancement or PM E-Drive scheme, which was launched in 2024 and comes under the Ministry of Heavy Industries. The World Health Organization has declared a polio outbreak in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea was declared polio-free in 2000. Polio is a highly infectious disease caused by a virus. It invades the nervous system and can cause total paralysis. Massive weather phenomena called twisters were observed in the US. Twister is another name for tornadoes in the US, which are violently spinning at 250 miles per hour, funnel-shaped columns of air that stretch from the dark thunderclouds they form all the way to the ground. The Supreme Court asked states and union territories to set up special investigation teams to examine cases of forest land being misused for non-forestry activities. The procedure for forest clearance as per Forest Conservation Act 1980 includes Stage 1, in principle approval, and Stage 2, final clearance. The first ever chromosome-level genome of the Indian yak was assembled by specialists from 4 ICAR institutions. The Indian yak, also known as the ship of the Himalayas, supports high-altitude communities with meat, milk, and transport. A new and revamped Multi-Agency Center or MAC with embedded AI or ML techniques was inaugurated by the Union Home Minister in New Delhi. MAC is a common counter-terrorism grid under the Intelligence Bureau that was made operational in 2001 post-Kargil War. Rajo Ki Baoli has been restored by Archaeological Survey of India in collaboration with World Monuments Fund India. Rajo Ki Baoli is a 4-tiered step well built during the Lodhi period to store water for drinking and cooking purposes. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description.